Good afternoon, morning, night, whatever it is. This is Humanize IT, back here with Skip Ziegler. Let's
Hey.
dive into a topic Skip and I were talking about this morning, which is why isn't MSP defined as an industry?
Yeah.
And a lot of you go, oh, wait, it is defined as an industry. I'm like, no, it's not.
Right.
If you're on the vendor side, or let's say you want to run a campaign against um everyone saying hey, these other MSPs aren't doing their good job, or you want to run a campaign to reach all of people looking for MSPs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like not necessarily against, but if you want to say, show anybody on LinkedIn, show anybody on Facebook ads if they've ever looked for an MSP or want to know about MSPs. And so in other industries you can select manufacturing, attorneys, telcos as an industry, and so people, when people look for that,
And
they'll
all the
promote your
subtypes
ad.
associated with them. Yeah.
Yeah, but with MSPs, there is nothing.
No.
Does not exist.
Yep.
And so the question is why? Why is that? We are like a $4 billion industry just by ourselves.
Yep.
I think something like that. And so the question is, like, where is this at? So I asked Perplexity, as you know, my addiction to AI continues. And the question is, why isn't MSP defined as an industry? It's all I asked. And we come into here, and Perplexity does a great job of telling me why I'm an idiot, or why we are all idiots. Here are the top 5 reasons. Lack of national standards. There is no widely accepted national global standards that define what an MSP is. 2, low barrier to entry. Anybody can start an MSP. Almost no
Yes.
capital, no technical expertise. You can just start, which is,
That's true.
we all agree, is a problem,
Yeah.
right? Anybody can start an MSP, which causes problems. You think you're this god of IT, and it's really that you just have a really high you're really high on the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah.
You think you know a lot more than you really do.
Right.
And you wonder why no one would help you, or no one will give you a good job in the industry. Limited management depth. Most MSPs are run by technical founders rather than experienced business managers. I can say it's 100% is true.
Yeah.
You guys promote technical people into business roles, and then they flounder and they struggle, and then the culture falls apart, and there's pain, and they don't understand how to identify things, and there's no real reason. It's like, in order to be an electrician, if you want to be in business as an electrician, there's a lot of hoops to jump through
There
to
are.
get to
Yeah.
that master level. You can't just be a journeyman electrician and start a company. You actually
Yep.
have to have a master electrician
Mm-hmm.
to operate under, who knows what's going on. And that master electrician isn't going to want to do the day-to-day operations of the company. They're going to delegate to some business manager, and they're really good at it. Go walk into anybody who runs an electrical services shop, where they're helping with homes, they're helping with industries, commercial, whatever, and you're going to see that they did not take their journeyman electricians and promote them into management. They hired a manager to come in and help
Yeah.
them figure things out. They hired accountants. But for some reason in the MSP industry, we think that we don't need business managers.
Yeah.
We think we can teach that. Number 4, identity crisis and overlap with other sectors. Who are we? Like, every MSP I talk to has a different thing of what they do. And think, oh,
Yeah.
well, I don't do that, I must not be a real MSP. No, you're wrong. MSPs can be whatever they want. You can corral horses and call yourself an MSP. It's such a wide variety. Some of you do software design. Some of you do website design. Some of you wouldn't touch website design with a 30-foot pole. Some
Yep.
of you do security services. Some of you don't do. Some of you do telephone services. Some of you do print services. Some of you won't touch those.
Yep.
Holy crap, people.
Yep.
Define yourself. And then the last one that Perplexity puts out there is, we are a young, evolving field. And the idea is that we're only a couple generations, like maybe one generation old. We're getting our second generation just now of IT professionals. And there's no way that's what we're having, this identity crisis today with, hey, do we do AI? Do we do other things? what is it we are and what are we doing? This new group comes up and like, oh, they have a whole bunch of new abilities. Well, who are we?
Yeah.
So Skip, pick one of those 5 and tear it apart.
Well, so no, here's the summary of all 5. All right. So we are technology people. All right. And that's the only tag on us.
Yeah.
So if you're communicating with anybody, all right, outside obviously our own little bubble, then we're viewed and categorized as the exact same type of people who are doing, switch work at an Amazon data center. We're the exact type of people that are doing software application support within a huge corporation. And we know from our perspective that those are vastly different worlds. I mean, it just could not be more different. And that lack of granularity is a barrier to communication.
Yeah.
So, we talked about this topic and then of course, we go and, refresh our coffee and come sit down. And while we're doing that, I thought that creates a real problem. That communication barrier creates a real problem in communicating value.
Yeah.
Right? What is it that you do? And what's your value? And then if you can't communicate what it is that you do to start with, then you've got a mountain of work in front of you. So this is kind of it's a frustrating deal. And well, I will say that comment about young, I don't know, things are changing fast. And I feel like I'm pretty plugged in to this. I've been doing IT for a while. And it does seem like it was the early 2000s when the MSP industry really started taking off. I know there were a few before then, right? But they're the rare cases, the bleeding edge of the pilot programs. And it wasn't till roughly, 2005 that you started to see more and more companies say, hey, rather than sending you an invoice every month, for the hours that we logged, let's do this at a flat rate. And that's what I see as the core defining element there.
Yeah.
And we're 20 years now, 2 decades into this, and we still don't have a consensus of what an MSP is. That's frustrating.
It's insanely frustrating from the vendor side for you MSPs listening to this. I know we have quite a few listeners out there, and it's frustrating from us. So there's no way for us to say, hey, who would be interested in being able to automate AI product delivery?
Mm-hmm.
You know what we do? We go to conferences and we drop 50 grand on a booth and advertising in the hopes that you'll stop by and we happen to hit the right person.
Yeah.
That's MSP marketing. So like if I have a tool today that will make you $1 million, let's say Adam and Skip came up with this golden nugget of a tool. We have this golden goose. Right. I want to sell you a golden goose. Heck, I'm going to sell it to you for $100. And this golden goose is going to crap out $30,000 nuggets of gold.
All right.
Let's say I've got one of these. I got them in my pocket right now. I'm willing to sell it to you for $10. How do I tell an MSP and MSPs around the nation that I have this golden goose?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way for me to say, hey, tell all MSPs I have this golden goose that'll make they'll crap out $30,000 eggs once a month, and it'll cost you $10. And so we sit there and we do all these things. We do all these gimmicks. We go to all these conferences, and I try to convince you, look, this goose will crap out a $30,000 egg, and you're like, that won't happen. You're overselling it, and just go with me for a moment that this is a real thing. That this is a golden goose.
Okay.
You won't believe me the first time. You won't believe me the second time. You won't believe me the third time. By this time, I've spent about $120,000 going to conferences trying to convince you that this is real. And about the 4th or 5th time, you're going to start taking me seriously.
Yeah.
Now, in another industry, let's say I want to sell the same golden goose to attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
I can go onto LinkedIn, I can go onto Google Ads, and I can define an audience of attorneys. And specifically, I can say attorneys who deal with golden goose retirement plans.
There we go. Yep.
And I can specifically say that because they're a defined industry and they know there's even subcategories to their industry. Here are financial planners who will help you retire.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to sell specifically to them because I know they can take this golden goose and they can help their people retire with it. Now I can set these ads up that say, hey, there's a golden goose available. If you'd like to buy them, limited supply, whatever. And I can hit them 4 to 5 times for about $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that in the industry. So all you MSPs ever hear about is the big sell things, people with deep pockets. That's all you ever see. You don't see the clever innovations that are happening because we can't tell you. There's this barrier to entry. We can't tell you. And you know, the cynical part of me thinks is that by design?
Oh, don't get me going with the conspiracy theories. You know,
You know, if there is so much money to be made at conferences in this industry, why would we define MSP as an industry? Then
Yeah.
people will just market normal ways. I'd send you a letter saying, "Hey, I got this golden goose for you. Here's $30,000." Now, you as an MSP, it's the same thing. If you want to compete and figure out who your competitors are in your local marketplace, how do you do market analysis? You can't just open up the yellow pages for those of you who are old. Can't just open up the yellow pages and go, "Oh, here's all the MSPs." You can't just go online and say, "What are all the MSPs in Lincoln, Nebraska?" You can kind of do that with AI. It'll do its best guess. It'll try to tell you, but in the end, you're stuck. You're stuck guessing, but from word of mouth, who your competitors are. How do you talk to them? Hey, what industries are you focusing on? Let's throw work back and forth. Who's trustworthy? Who's got, you know, so like it is crazy. This industry is so young and so immature that I can't even select it from a LinkedIn drop down to say, hey, show me other MSPs and MSP groups in this area.
Yeah. And that value communications where I still come back to that, you know, if you're, and I think sometimes we're a mature enough industry that sometimes we forget where we came from, that transition point. And I guess me being so heavily involved in that transition point is really a milestone in my career. But
you remember computer consultants?
I do. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And, you know, and the reason we did that. So, you know, if we're billing a customer 100 hours a year and they pay for that as they use it, right?
Yep.
So, you know, it's 10 hours 1 month and 2 hours the next. It's this up and down cycle. And so we come to them with this business plan that says, hey, rather than billing as we use it, why don't we do a flat rate over the whole year? Now, you didn't do that because, hey, I'm going to bill them 100 hours, whether I bill them in monthly, you know, as used, or just spread it out. At the end of the year, it's still going to be 100 hours. That is not the foundation of this managed service model. The idea is, but because your customer is calling you when something is broken or needs maintenance. Okay, I'm focusing on that. You know, new stuff needs to be dealt with separately, different ways, but it's broken or it needs maintenance. And they're paying you hourly to do that. But the foundation of this model was, hey, if I can be proactive rather than waiting on them to call me, I can stop problems from ever happening, and I can do maintenance more effectively, more efficiently.
Can you remember when that happened?
There's a value there.
Can you remember when that happened? Like what year was that? Was that around 2005?
I think that was when it really started, you know, gaining more traction. And, you know, again, our industry struggled a little bit, but back then we still got even printed, you know, articles and you know, publications that would come out. Network World was one of the ones that I,
Oh
you
man,
know, kept
I don't
around
think I
over
know
the
that
years.
one.
And, you know, they were all technology. Cisco's doing this. There's a new, you know, transceiver for fiber optics that can do this. But around that time, you know, we started showing up as an industry in those articles.
Yep.
And like I said, it's been a change for a lot of people. Some of them took a long time. There's still some hourly IT service companies out there, and they still do things on the hourly basis. So here's kind of my challenge and a thought idea for MSP operators out there. You may know that your industry is what it is, right? But your clients, you can't assume that your clients know that, right? There's still a chance that they're seeing you or your team members as just another IT guy.
Yep.
And you have got to overcome that barrier, that communication barrier about your value. And it's not just, hey, I'm going to provide you a simpler billing model. There was a fundamental reason why we shifted over. And it was to make more money. All right. We made, I mean,
Or
especially,
consistently make money.
yes.
Like predictive money models. I'll give me a model that says I will make $500,000 this year on retainer.
Mm.
I'll take that over 550
Absolutely.
on
Yeah.
consulting costs any year.
Mm.
I want to have that predictability because then I can plan and I can forecast and I can do all sorts of things. And so, you know, it was to make money. I guess you can make a lot of money, but it's not predictable income when you're constantly behind the gun trying to figure out where are you going. Is this going to be a good year or a bad year? I mean, some people like that car salesman feel. I have a hard time there.
Yeah. Well, and we do make more money if we do the value sell. There's value in those preemptive, sort of proactive roles that we take, because we stop problems. And when we stop those problems, we don't have to fix them. So the time is not spent working on that. But we still get a percentage of that time, so to speak. So we did all this because it was valuable. It's valuable to us as business owners and operators, and it's valuable to the client because they're able to utilize their technology better. And if we don't keep that value forefront in what we're doing, then we're going to spend a lot of time explaining how things are different, how all this works, and it becomes a sales cycle. And that's all it is. We're selling a SKU, and they can get that SKU somewhere else at 2% cheaper. So why would they buy it from us versus somewhere else? And it creates a lot of work. So that value of what an MSP is, what your MSP is, needs to be well defined, because, you know, the business marketplace in general is not doing it. So you have to take it upon yourself to define it clearly, communicate it not only externally, but internally, so that understanding of the value is first and foremost in everything that you have to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of the crux of what's going on here is why as an MSP in industry is that lack of maturity. I remember I was working somewhere, oh man, 15 years ago, more than that. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're a large company." I'm like, "No, you're a small business."
Mm-hmm.
They thought because they had 50 employees, they were a large company. To them, they felt large.
Yep.
They were doing business with very large corporate firms. They felt big. And to me, like, you're a small business still. Like, if you're under 100 under 500 employees, you're still considered a small business.
Yeah.
And in the MSP industry, we feel like those people are gargantuan.
Yeah.
Like if you got 500 people at your MSP, you're just massive. I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, compared to the rest of the world's businesses, you're a small fry.
That's it.
You can be bought and traded without even being a line item on the PE's ledger.
Yep.
Like that's the crazy thing. Well, we do $100 million of business and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's cool. You're still a small business.
Mm-hmm.
You might be getting close to mid-size as you hit 1,000.
Yep.
But that's the way the world works, guys. And we see ourselves as this huge pond because we're IT. We control everything. We
Okay.
have so much influence. And there's this ego that keeps getting inflated and inflated and inflated. And like, I worked at a very small utility and my budget personally was bigger than most of your annual revenue. And I was
Mm-hmm.
one director.
Yep.
I worked I worked at another company where I didn't even have a budget and I was able to ask for things like that are $300,000
Mm-hmm.
and I'd get approved just because I asked for it. That was just me just behaving like I was just doing my job. Yeah, I was in a leadership role, but I did not have a budget directed to me. And so, like, yeah, I remember hearing rumors about that at that company. Like, one of the engineers was in a meeting, and they were like helping set up some stuff. And on a whim, like one of the controllers goes, "Hey, I need to move that 75 million. Are you good with that?" Like, oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That was just a footnote. They were just chit chatting
Mm-hmm.
before the meeting. That wasn't even worth being a meeting note. $75 million being moved. Like they're just going to move it over to this other account and kind of take care of it. That's where you guys are. Like think about that as an industry.
Yep.
To you, that is an enormous amount of cash. And yes, to these people, it was a big amount of cash, but it was daily transactions. It was just normal like things. And so what you got to learn is that we as an industry are very young. We don't think big as other industries do. When we compare the MSP industry to other industries, yes, it is a $4 billion industry. That's still peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
NVIDIA, just broke $4 trillion, and that's one company.
Yeah.
We are less than 1% of 1% of their bottom line.
Yeah. And they're a
as an
technology
entire
company,
industry.
right?
So I want you guys to think about that. When you think about like, how do we become professional as an industry? I think we'll get there. AI is going to cause a lot of disruption because it's going to automate a lot of parts of our job, and we're basically moving out into the cloud, right? Or less local infrastructure and more cloud infrastructure, more
Been going on for a while.
commodity throwaway assets inside the business, but they still need strategic services. And so that's where like attorneys have made their living. Like they don't sell objects, they sell advice.
Yeah.
And you need to get there because that's where our industry is going. It used to be that attorneys sold the ability to type up documents, to collate, to replicate, do court reporting, and there's all these things that they did physically.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all advisory. Like I'll help you create a boilerplate template. I'll help you come up with a strategy for financial planning. I'll help you come up with these things. And that's where they make their money now.
Yeah.
And we're headed there as an industry. And I think that's where MSP might start to die off, and we might just become some kind of computer consultant again.
Yeah.
And then now we're going to start all over. But at that point, I think we'll start maturing. What kind of computer consultant are you? Well, I'm an AI consultant. I am a network engineering consulting firm. I am a security consulting firm. And so now we have this umbrella of IT consulting, and then we have industries just like attorneys do underneath. And I think that's where we're going. If I had to pick up my crystal ball here and and ask about it.
There's something really interesting there. When you see these new things open up, these new fields, and there's always somebody that jumps out there and is super successful doing it. Sometimes they seem to come from nowhere. But there are also these other organizations who can pivot and shift. and jump out there as well. And I think if that's, the path that unfolds, I think MSPs could be very, very well suited to do that because, well, if they put that value out there, the value of working with us is we're going to help you navigate all of these technology challenges, whether it's AI or cloud computing or, mobile devices, whatever it is. We've been doing this for decades now. We just got
emerging technologies.
We just got to keep pushing ourselves, but it's always from the value perspective. Hey, work with us because we're going to take technology X and make it more effective for your organization. And if you're good at communicating that today, then you've got established business relationships, which are going to be much stickier. So that's going to protect that revenue. But then, two, it's going to enable you to go deeper, transition with those existing clients, and gain new clients.
Yeah.
But it's all going to be about the value that you bring to the table. And if you're, just wanting to be an industry leader and expect people to pick you as an industry leader, well, there's no industry to pick from. So that didn't work out.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that you guys all keep defining that, being consistent, and that's how we're going to win through this situation and become true professionals. Is we have to be recognized by the rest of the world as a necessary component. When I hear about people business planning, I hear them talk about they need an attorney, they need an accountant, they need a business plan. I never hear them say ever once in any company planning that I have seen for entrepreneurship or for company planning, I've never seen, oh, you need a good CIO. Never has that been mentioned. And I've been in a lot of meetings, people. And so what I want you guys all to think about is like, why is that? And how can you contribute to the overall success of this industry? How can we work together to be seen as an industry that is absolutely necessary for business? And I think we are necessary for business, but we're not perceived that way because you guys keep selling computers and you're not consulting. Let's get to consulting. Let's define ourselves as a consulting industry. So maybe it's not a multi-service provider. We are IT consultants like we used to be. And then we have different focuses as IT consultants. That's Adam Walter's ego-driven solution to this problem.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was a good. Skip came up with this topic this morning. Like, why aren't we MSPs? What's going on here? And then let's make that a podcast topic. So here we go. Why aren't MSPs in the industry? I'd love to hear in your comments. If you want to add comments to this on YouTube, you guys are terrible at communicating. Everybody watches and everybody lurks and no one comments. Maybe we need to hit 1,000 before regular viewers before we'll see that. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for coming on, Skip. We'll see everyone next week.
Thanks.